We are about to wrap up 2025. And whenever those of you who've been hanging around for a little while know that I always tell y'all that once I have a conversation more than one time, like at least three times, that I know that there's some synchronicity in the things that are being spoken. And that's typically when I step out and share. And so, one of the things that I wanted us to be very clear about, and you guys will see me starting to move this way, well, continuing to move this way, is to create healing spaces. Um, we don't really, there's no benefit to being on a main stage, like a big stage. As far as I'm concerned, that may help others, and that may be the path for other people. But for me, um, there is a calling to kind of come down to these smaller, more healing spaces. Partially, I think things are way too amplified right now. We need voices amplified, but we need the correct voices amplified. I talked about a while ago the fact that we have to, this was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I talked about the ability to properly discern where your energy is supposed to go, where your focus and your attention is supposed to go. And I think people understood that conversation, but, and and we also had AI really pop off in a way that I don't think people anticipated. It was something that I talked about, and I was saying you're going to have to really know the difference between what is real and what isn't. And then AI just really popped off, and people are having trouble. And this stuff is all by design, y'all. It's not somebody just kind of tinkering with something and wanting to kind of figure it out and play with it. This stuff is structurally being done by design. And so as well as like the airwaves just being crowded. It's an interesting thing because it is almost as if everybody has their own channel. I mean, I'm talking to you guys right now as well, right? And so this is my channel that you may be tuned into. So it's like everybody has their own channel. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think where the problem comes in is that people are having trouble discerning what is real and what's not. And then maybe some people just don't even care what's real and what's not. And that is really putting us in a position where there is erasure of truth, and where people are not necessarily getting the deeper healing that they need. And so, what you're going to see me doing more so in 2026, number one, I'm going to be coming back out to do in-person events. So we're going to have our lunar circles back into play more regularly. For those of you who are in the metro Atlanta area, those lunar circles are going to be coming back into more frequent. We're going to have more frequent meetings, more regular meetings. You're going to see me doing more spaces that incorporate yoga and Reiki. I'm wrapping up a yoga teacher training certification, as well as a Usui Reiki level 3 practitioner. And I'm also working on my Shihan candidacy. So I will be able to eventually teach and certify others in Reiki, which has been super helpful for me. I detailed that journey a bit on my Healing Through Sacred Writing blog site. So the thing for 2026, I remember just growing up, whenever there was a storm coming, my grandmother used to make us always kind of take shelter. We're in the house and everything, but it's like you have to turn everything off. You got to turn the lights off and you got to go sit still somewhere because there's a storm coming. I could have a book to read, especially if it was like during the daytime, I could have a book to read. But she used to make us sit on the landing for the steps that were going from the living room that were going upstairs. There was a landing there. And she used to make us sit still on the landing, and she would kind of close. There were doors that would close off separate areas of the house, and she would have us sit there and just sit still. And I remember being restless, like, what am I supposed to be doing? And she's like, you're just gonna have to wait for all this thunder and then lightning to go over, because like we don't need to be in a space where anything can happen. You couldn't take a shower, definitely had to get off the phone, no baths and all those things like that. And those things felt like super precautionary to me because I was always like, can't we just sit down and watch the TV? And she's like, no, you need to sit still. There's a storm. You can sit still for a minute. The storm isn't going to last forever. You can and so we would have to figure out things to do in that space. There was, conversation. We would talk about little things, or I could have my book. I still, as a result, as an adult, I still carry a book with me everywhere I go because of my grandmother. But I want us to kind of see life a little bit like that right now, especially 2026 and 2027. What can you do to weather the storm? The biggest thing here, I think, one of the big things to understand is that a lot of the things that are happening, like it's spiritual warfare, it's not political warfare. And a lot of the things that are occurring, like it's not our fight, right? So I told her, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, remember when we were in grade school, you would have a fight pop off in the classroom. I mean, for some of y'all might have been a little bit too removed for that to happen, but in my school, a fight would pop off and you move yourself on out the way. That's not your fight. I mean, if that's two people you just know in your classroom, that's two people you know in your classroom, and you mind your business. You don't go inserting yourself. You don't go. Is it stressful for a moment in the classroom? Yes. But what do? You move the desks and stuff out the way, make sure chairs can't go flying, and you get yourself on up out the way, and you go figure out something else to do while these people are duking it out. And that's essentially what we need to do in this period of time, because a lot of what we're seeing transpire, some of it is stuff that we can't fix, at the level where we are. There are things that we can do. So I don't want you to feel discouraged or hopeless. Yes, you should go vote. Yes, you should stay aware. No, you should not stick your head in the ground and act like nothing's happening. You should stay abreast of all of the changes and things that are happening. But I think what I want you guys to understand is that we should not let this space consume us. We should not let it consume us. Because if we, first of all, speaking of America specifically, if we're honest, it's always been, white men that were kind of in this space doing their own thing, and everything that they did trickled down to everybody else. That's not new. But this is a global impact of patriarchy crashing. And so you can turn the channel and look at stuff happening in Paris, and you can look at stuff happening in certain countries in Africa. Like, there's crumbling and dismantling everywhere, right? And in all parts of the globe. And so I think it was super important for us to understand is that we find these spaces where we can have a seat and be still and feel safe. What is that going to look like for you? Maybe it looks like you finally taking the music class and learning piano because you always wanted to learn piano and you never did. Maybe that safe space looks like you going to take a dance class. You always wanted to learn hip hop and jazz, and you never did that as a child. And so you're an adult, you have your income, and you go learn hip hop and jazz. Maybe it is you going to a silent read, a silent book club, and you're sitting there with other book lovers, and you go for an hour a month or an hour every other week to the silent book club and you read and you enjoy being a part of a space. Maybe it looks like you going to house music night. You know, there's a local club or like a local gathering or something, and they have a house music night, and you just go and you dance your cares away. In Baltimore, we have the song, I'm going to dance my pain away. So figure out what those healing spaces look like. I'm going to continue to be creating spaces. There is the Healing Through Sacred Writing website, and you will start to see Love Light Lucid morphing into Soul Lotus Healthcare, and you'll see it morph into Soul Lotus and Honey, which is a vehicle with literacy and just my love for books and reading and my love for those like mid to late 90s, early 2000s African American authors that we loved. You'll see me kind of talking about that and bringing in-person events. But like I said, you'll also see me doing more classes. For instance, this evening, this is going to be the first class for the energy healing and intuitive guidance class. You'll see that class once a month. I think it's going to be super important for you people to understand their own energy, understand how to attune their energy, understand how to protect their energy. That's going to be super important for us over the next few years. It's always been important. It's always something that I've done with clients and the people that I've worked with. I've always taught that, but if you have not learned that, or if you need to brush up, come to these classes. That's what the classes are going to be for. I'm going to have some fun classes like tarot classes. I think what has to happen is people have to kind of burrow in and learn something that makes them feel full and enriched, gives you a different focus, right? Maybe your safe space is going to be going on Storygraph and doing some reading challenges. You're going to have to pick what is going to look best for you. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be something that is overly therapeutic. We have to kind of drop the facade where that's concerned and do some things that are everyday related, right? Just things that bring you joy. That's going to be super important as well. What brings you a semblance of joy? What does that little piece of happiness look like? Does it look like a slice of cake? You know, one of my joys is going to get food off the hot bar and just sitting in the parking lot and listening to jazz and eating my food in peace. Figure out what your peace of mind looks like. That's going to be important because it gets overwhelming when we see things happening on a global scale. There's this feeling like, oh, I want to help this. I want to figure this out. I want to be part of the solution. But 9 times out of 10, a lot of this stuff is systematic and it's way bigger than what some of us can do individually or even as a collective. Some of this stuff is just way out of hand and it needs to fall and it needs to be dismantled, and we don't need to help it or pick up the pieces. We need to let it fall. And so I want you guys to really focus on where are these small spaces. If you don't have a space, create what you need. If you don't have the capacity to create what you need, you have to be open to just exploration and expansion, right? How can I be open to exploration and expansion when I feel like I don't have capacity? You have to call to you what it is that you need. If you are in need of friendship and support, then you have to go to places where friendship and support exists. And you also have to be that friendship and support to someone else as you're expecting it to come to you. And so I want you guys, this is the first of many conversations that we're going to be having about this, but I want you guys to start paying attention. I'm going to be posting when I'm having some of these events. People have asked me over the years, oh, I want to do stuff. I want to come in person. And then I have it. And then people are scared to come. Anxiety kicks in. People don't, oh, I don't know what to do. Just come. Just be there, be present, be in the moment. You don't have to. I've seen these posts too a lot about people who are afraid to go do things by themselves. We have to work on that because I think being so connected on the internet gives the false illusion that you have support. I think support looks different. I think support is a beautiful thing because, like, for instance, I've watched their kids grow up, and I've never met their kid in my life. But when their kid has something, I'm quick to send a little cash app here or there for a graduation or whatever. And I love that. That's one sense of community, but we've really got to get back to the sense of community where we are in person, face to face, we're talking, we're gathering, we are supporting, because that element was missing for a minute, and we need to I don't think it's ever gone anywhere. It's just kind of dwindled a bit. And so we need to get back to that. These spaces do exist. I'm going to be bringing some more group sessions for various ages. That's going to be coming up as well. I'm working on some things for some teens, teen group sessions. So I want you guys to keep your eyes out. I want you to stay in the loop on the MailChimp, on the listserv, on the email listserv. I'm going to be putting the link to Healing Through Sacred Writing in the Love blog here in the chat, because that's where you guys are going to find me. I'm going to be doing less on like Facebook and Instagram. Those spaces have a semblance of support, but they also have a lot of lurkers. And so I want to be in spaces that are actually fulfilling and healing for people coming up. So we want to create these spaces. 2026 and 2027 are going to require that we come together in a way that we haven't in a while. And it's going to require that we not wait for somebody else to provide the healing, because I've heard that too. Well, where are the people that are supposed to fix this? Where are the people who are supposed to do this? People who know what their assignment is, they've already been working. You've got to change your channel to make sure that you are watching the right channel. So I think it's always funny when somebody had posted recently, it was so funny. A guy says, like, what happened to the garage bands that we still love, like Green Day, and like, where's Avril Lavigne? And just kind of talking about that scene, like that, what was that, like, I guess like late 90s, early 2000s kind of Fall Out Boy, like that kind of scene. So I'm like, I know Avril Lavigne didn't go anywhere. I go look her up because I said, wait a minute, let me go check and see. She's been consistently putting out albums. The reason you don't know where she's at is because you haven't put her on your radar. She hasn't gone anywhere. But she's also not, what was she, like 16 when that stuff came out? She's also grown. She's probably looking at Spotlight in a different way. And the people who need to know where she's at and the people who were checking for her are over there because, I mean, I'm looking at her streams on even her new music, and it's up there, 48 million streams, and somebody's listening. Why don't you know where she's at? It was a funny post and it was super valid because it's like, wait, we could use some of that music now. Like that was good stuff. But I say that to say, let's not think that these places are obsolete or these spaces don't exist. Let's make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position to attune to being in those spaces so we are more cognizant of where they're at. We're paying attention to where these spaces are, and we're using our discernment when we choose to step into a place, because that's key as well. People are still kind of stepping into these scammy kind of places and then wanting to blanket and say, well, these healing spaces are no good. No, your discernment's a little bit off and you keep choosing stuff that ain't never going to help you heal. You keep listening to people on podcast tours that aren't going to help, right? And so the spaces that are going to help, they're here, they're just not loud. And I think all of that is okay. So stay tuned. We're creating spaces in 2026. If you have any healing spaces that have been helpful for you, I want you to drop that in the comment section. That would be super helpful to other people, to know places that have been helpful for you. And I'm going to be dropping the links to Healing Through Sacred Writing and the Love blog in the comments as well. I would love for you guys to join me on those spaces. And here's to finding your healing and finding your joy coming up despite the chaos in 2026.